90 days ago, I set in motion what has quickly become one of my favorite setups in the animal room. This aquatic world resides within a custom-built aquarium I constructed from IKEA glass shelves. I had a few objectives in mind when I set things in motion. First and foremost, I wanted to create a stable and beautiful environment for some of my favorite fish, gold ring danios. I've had them for a while, but they've lived in this aquarium alongside green Kabotai rasbora, amano shrimp, cherry shrimp, and snails for the past 4 years. My secondary objective was to maintain the essence of this design while improving its viability within the low-tech framework. An issue that annoyed me was how degraded aqua soil migrated above the sand. The solution was simple: conceal the substrate within permeable mesh bags under a layer of sand. I assembled the hardscape above these while maintaining a buffer zone around it for maintenance. I failed to do that before, which resulted in many scratches. Years later, algae formed in various locations as well. Including riparian plant growth here would help sequester nutrients that likely played a role in its development. Additionally, I laid the foundation for a forest below that would do the same. Everything has flourished since then, and all of the adjustments paid off. I realize it doesn't include animals yet besides the snails, so the bioload will change, but I've only done one maintenance session thus far. That was just a simple water change to remove tannins. The plants above the rim have acclimated and filled in nicely, and the water lily has finally breached the surface. I often find the snails being sped along by the water movement like this. It always makes me laugh. The most significant change though is with the garden that's emerged below. I think the crypt forest looks incredible and even better than I imagined. However, a few of them are growing too close to the glass. There's also an excess of snail poop on the hardscape. Those are easy fixes though. I made quick work of the crypts and trimmed off a few leaves. I also removed a few unsightly portions of the bulbitis. The rotala was growing to the top, which I'd typically like, but I don't think it's the best look here. I replanted the trimmings to create denser bunches. I removed a few things above the rim as well. Everything is rooted and established, so I was able to do a gravel vac without any concern. There's not a lot of debris, but the snail poop has begun to pile up. I removed what I could with this and switched to a regular siphon. Typically, I wouldn't change this much water at once, but I'm still trying to dial in the tannin levels though. I want some, but not as much as there was before. It's looking incredible after just that little bit of maintenance, and you can see the stark difference between the two. The challenge I'm working with though is getting all of the animals out of here and into there. I think the best place to start though is with the fish. I take that back. This ramshorn snail caught my eye, so we'll get him in there first. I quickly realized this wouldn't be as easy as I thought. I figured a bribe might help. It did, and I was able to move the first round of fish. Seeing them in their new home was great. I couldn't stop there though. I got a few more, but as I came back for the remainder, they were nowhere to be seen. They were on to me. I could dismantle the enclosure to find them and begin transferring the cherry shrimp, but I have a better idea. There are a lot of shrimp in here. At a glance, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, there's a lot of them. What began as 6 humble shrimp has multiplied significantly over the years, and I think it's safe to say that there's at least 100 of them in here. My exact guess though is 147. What's yours? The plan was simple. Trick the shrimp into this flask so I don't have to round them up myself. That's my plan at least. However, just as I was about to set the trap, I saw the fish that eluded me. With a little finesse, I was able to finally reunite it with its friends. Now back to Operation Shrimp Trap. The shrimp are perceptive and can quickly sense food in the water, so unsurprisingly there was an immediate taker. Another quickly arrived on the scene, but to my surprise was more interested in the GoPro. Before long, many others found their way to the banquet and began feasting together. A snail and a mono shrimp were also on the hunt, but never joined the party. Over the next 30 minutes, the flask did an excellent job. That said, I saw that many were having issues finding their way in. There were escapees as well, but I assumed that was unavoidable. I knew it could be better and decided to try this container instead. Although the wider opening would make escaping easier, it was a trade-off I was willing to make. I knew they'd have easier access to the food, and as before, a few found their way in immediately. While this trap did its thing, I moved the shrimp from before. Part of why I'm even doing it like this is to get a proper count on the shrimp, as it will likely be my only opportunity. I intend to keep their new tank going for many years, and won't disturb them after this. This screen will give them a lot of surface area to cling to for the short time they're in this bowl while I do the census. Now I knew there were a lot of shrimp in this aquarium, but it was eye-opening to observe them swarm over an extended period of time. More and more just kept emerging from the Süßwassertong to find the food. Thankfully, this new trap was also more effective because of improved access. Even so, I had to empty it every few minutes because of the escape artists. As I did this though, I came to a realization. As I go on here, I'm starting to think that the trap is a futile attempt to collect all the shrimp. I've emptied it into the bowl several times, but it doesn't appear to be making a dent whatsoever. In fact, it appears like there's more shrimp in there now than I've seen in a long time. I think it's time to get in there and take matters into my own hands. And that I did. I carefully netted all the shrimp I could find, which was at least the same as before. Slowly but surely the numbers eventually decreased, but I knew many were still hiding within the Süßwassertong. There was no way I'd find the rest unless I dismantled the setup. I methodically peeled back the layers of foliage that took years to develop. Of course, I carefully sifted through all of it to leave no stone unturned. It didn't surprise me how many shrimp emerged as I did. However, I wasn't expecting to find plants I hadn't seen in years. I just assumed they were gone entirely, but sure enough, there they were alive and well within the Süßwassertong, just waiting to be unearthed. I found more shrimp within each piece I removed until I could no longer see in the tank. That was until the Amanos emerged in the front. They eluded me this whole time, but no longer. I was finally able to get them moved over. And as I stepped back to observe it all, I saw one more. And this is the last one. The last one for now, at least. I'm sure there's a few more in there, but I gotta allow the debris to settle overnight, just to be sure. In the meantime, I'm curious to see just how much the shrimp have multiplied over the years. I just gotta get this screen out of the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not actually gonna count all these up. I got a better idea. Before I tally them up though, I'm gonna get them into their new tank. And with that, I'm extremely curious to see just how many shrimp were in there. Let's do this. Up to 50, 100. It's kind of crazy. I believe my guess was 147 if I remember correctly. My exact guess though is 147. And there ended up being 143. That's wild how close I was. You could see in that clip, all the shrimp were still in the tank behind me, so it was just a lucky guess. Everyone is doing incredibly well now that they've settled in for a day. I've waited eagerly to see this all from the start, but I'm glad I waited and allowed it to season first. Given the number of shrimp I added at once, I also think it was necessary. Additionally, this environment is double the size and includes many features the animals seem to appreciate. The fish have significantly more room to swim through, which is fantastic to see. They've always been active, but now they can really rip through the water. Of course, the shrimp also enjoy all the grazing surfaces. There might not be all of the Süßwassertong this time, but there is more hardscape and plenty of foliage to comb through, so it likely won't be much of a difference. I had to refrain from adding it because I didn't want it to take over again. That said, I now have a tank completely full of it in the quarantine room. I also ended up with many plants which I can use in other setups I'm working on. And to my surprise, I actually ended up gathering all of the shrimps in the previous day. I truly thought I would have missed some, but the old tank was desolate. That's when I dismantled it for good. It's wild because I didn't plan for or realize until I started working on this that on February 10th, 2020 is when I originally built the old tank. That's exactly 4 years ago from the day I'm uploading this. It seems like just yesterday that I set out to create that aquascape. It's served the animals well since then, and has always been nostalgic for me. After all, that was the last project I did before going full-time on YouTube, so it marked the start of a new era. I feel like SerpaDesign is about to enter another era very soon, so it brings things full circle in a way. Regardless, I'm excited to see how this new aquatic world unfolds in the years to come.